Hi there, and welcome to Old Time Central. Tonight we have a special interview for you. We're going to be talking with fiddler Todd Clewell and Barb Schmid tonight. They're coming to us from Pennsylvania, and we're really excited to have them on the program. Good evening, Todd and Barb. How are you all doing tonight?
We're doing great.
Very good.
Good. It's great to see you all. What's the weather up there in Pennsylvania? We're sweltering
Very
down
hot.
here.
It was very hot. Well, it's very windy today, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very windy, but very hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
West Virginia.
Well, we're here tonight to talk some about yourself, the music that you play, and a pretty awesome project that you did surrounding Sarah Armstrong and her music. So to get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself first in old-time music? How did you come to old-time music, just to be generally, even before Sarah Armstrong's music? How did you get into this secret little world of music we have?
And that's what it is, too. It's a wonderful place.
Yes, yes.
Well, I bought a guitar when I was 18 years old, and I started to play it a little bit and had some friends that played instruments, and they were into folk music, and they listened to, I had a friend that had an album collection, he listened to everything, old time, bluegrass, jazz, you name it. And he and I shared a house for a while, and I really got to listen to a lot of stuff. Started playing some bluegrass music and picked up the bass fiddle besides the guitar. And I played in bluegrass bands for probably about 20 years. I played bass. And I always had a fiddle, and I had a guitar, and I used to fool around a little bit with the fiddle trying to learn how to play it. Never could really, because bluegrass is such a technical music. It really takes so much work, and it's sort of daunting, you know. And anyway, I met Bob Buckingham, who's a pretty well-known in the old time and bluegrass circles. He lives in South Carolina now. And he and I had a duo while he was still living up here in Pennsylvania. He used to live real close to me here. So we had a thing going on, and he kept telling me, you got to go to Clifftop. You got to go to Clifftop. Clifftop is really, you'd love it. You've got to go. So finally I went to Clifftop. And in the middle of the night, one night, I got in I was there listening to a jam, and I remember distinctly they were playing Julianne Johnson. And they were all, you know how they were all together. It was just, they were all really good. And I just felt myself lifting off the ground. And I said, this is my home. I got to learn how to do this. And that's how I got started playing old time fiddle. And that was probably in 1999 or something like that. Until then, I didn't really have anything to grab onto, to play with playing the fiddle. I was around fiddle players, but never old time fiddle players. And I said, I can do this really is what I want to do. So that's how I got started.
That's pretty incredible. I definitely can understand that experience you talk about where you're like lifting off the ground. So much old time music has that, like, you transcend, and it's almost like you're out of your body. As crazy as that sounds, somebody who doesn't know old time music is probably like, wow, these people are crazy right now.
They're doing drugs, right?
Yeah, but it is. It's like you become part of this music that's so much bigger than just yourself and your wood and strings that you're sawing on or something. And
the community aspect of it is what really drew me to it too. And everyone is so, such good people.
Yeah.
I've made incredible relationships and met so many people all over the place. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's folk music for all us common folk. Oh, yeah.
Truly.
Well, and then so you got started in old time music around 1999, you said. It wasn't that much longer afterwards that you started to dive into this project that we're talking about for Sarah Armstrong. Is that right?
Right. As I mentioned, Bob Buckingham and I were really good friends, and he was into, he was a bit of a tune hound too. He was always looking for different things, and he had a friend that worked in the library system, actually a person I play with today, Henry Koretsky, who's a very good guitar and mandolin player in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. worked in the library system for Penn State, and Bob knew him and asked him if he could get out a couple books that we'd like to look through. One of them was Hill Country Tunes, which is the book that Samuel Baird, the Penn State professor, wrote about Sarah Armstrong and 4 other fiddle players. There was 5 contributors there. So we got that book, and we got the other book, which I'll show you here because I don't have a picture of it on the other thing. It's called Dance to the Fiddle and March to the Fife.
Oh, excellent.
And this book, that book there has over 1,000 tunes in it. So this Penn State professor collected all these tunes all over Pennsylvania. Wow. So anyway, we made a copy of the smaller book, the Hill Country Tunes book, the one that had the Sarah Armstrong tunes in it. We made a copy of it, and it was on my shelf. And then every year we were going down to, Bob had a friend down in Elk Creek, Virginia, in southwestern Virginia, near Galax and that area down there. And there was a festival at Elk Creek, Virginia that we went to every year. We met a friend of ours, name was Jerry Carell, who had to play a cabin down there. He's an old-time fiddler as well. So we went down there, and he had a big picnic every year on a Saturday where things were sort of slow at the festival. Everybody would come to his house, and he had hundreds of people. I mean, names like you would know them all. You know, they were all really great. Benton Flippin used to come, and all these people to this party. So I was up in the porch playing some tunes with Ellen and Pete Vigor. You've probably heard of them from Charlottesville. And Ellen played this Sarah Armstrong's tune. I thought, man, that's a really cool tune. So I started asking her about it, and she said, oh, that's Sarah Armstrong's tune. And I said, well, I recorded it. I said, I got to learn that. And then it sort of struck me that I had the book that tune came out of. And I thought, well, if that tune is so good, maybe the rest of these tunes that they, collected from her, maybe they're good too, So I got into this book, and I'm not a fantastic, are you going to...
I'm just going to show the book.
Okay, yeah, this is a Hill Country Tunes book here.
Oh, wow.
And there's a picture of Sarah Armstrong. This was taken by the author there, Samuel Baird. This book was published in 1944. He published that, and that was right at the end of World War II. So you can imagine that for a woman to take such a strong place in a book like that at that time, she must have been something. She must have really been able to play well, and must have really gotten excited by what she was doing there.
Yeah.
So I can read music, not super great, but I got into the book and I started learning tunes, and one after another. And then I met Harry Bollock and Ken Bloom down in Mount Airy at the festival. I was talking to them about it, and Harry was real interested in Sarah Armstrong stuff too. But he was in the middle of his Mississippi Tunes project, and he didn't have time to do the Sarah Armstrong's project. So he's like, you really ought to do it. You're into it. You're passionate about it. He said, just do it. And they were very encouraging. Him and Ken both, they play with me, and they'd give me hints and ideas. And, Harry was he's a great guy. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's
a little bit. Clifftop, I've run into him a few times. Yeah.
So that's what happened. And I started learning the tunes, and decided that and of course, Barb was in the group of the Oldtime group that we were in, and I was bringing these tunes in. Everybody was learning them. Everybody was playing rhythm for me, and we were, trying to make something out of all these tunes. And I learned quite a few of them. So that's really how that happened.
That's awesome. What a great start to it. I wonder if you might have one of those tunes you'd like to share with us now.
Well, yeah, I thought we'd start out with in the book it's called The Old Reel, but everybody calls it Sarah Armstrong's tune, which is the tune that most people know, Sarah Armstrong's tune, and it's called The Old Reel. So we'll play a little bit here. Barb and I do a little bit of harmony on this one too.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'll just get out of your way and sit back and enjoy for a minute.
Here's The Old Reel.
Wow. Excellent job. That sounded wonderful. Tell you what, two fiddles together, that's like my favorite combination. Harmony is just beautiful. Really
It
nice.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Anybody who's just tuning in right now, thanks for joining us this evening. You're watching Oldtime Central, a live interview with Todd Clewell and Barb Schmid. We're talking about fiddling, music, life, and Sarah Armstrong. So before that tune, Todd, you were telling us some about how you were inspired and kind of came to find out about Sarah Armstrong's music. And you have this wonderful book filled with music from her. What happened next?
Well, I also wanted to mention that when Harry got interested in Sarah Armstrong, we knew that he had a graphic arts background and was really into computers and things, and I said, we ought to really get some T-shirt. You ought to make a T-shirt with Sarah Armstrong's picture on it.
Yeah.
So he did, and I still have mine here. You can see that.
Excellent. Yes.
So they're long sold out, but I think there's just probably some people around that still have them. They were pretty popular there back
Gotta
in
get
the
my
day.
hands on one of those.
Now I've forgotten what your question was.
Oh, so where did it go from there? Now you have this book filled with Sarah Armstrong's music. You're learning them, and now you're starting to spread them out in jam circles. Is that right?
Yes. So we were learning the tunes, and as I said, Harry and Ken both were very encouraging. And they said, you really ought to record this. And I had a little, I had some equipment, recording equipment at my house, and so I actually did the project myself. I recorded everything myself, and enlisted the help of several of my friends to come in and put different parts on there. There's some piano on there with some of the jigs and some of the other pieces, and I had a guitar player come, and then I had Bob Buckingham come and put banjo on it, and Barb put some helped me with some cuts on there. So it took a few months to get all that down. I did it all myself, and then the process, you get it mastered and mixed and mastered, and then all the artwork, and send it off and get it back, and
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do you have this CD for sale anywhere, or is it in circulation somewhere if people wanted to find that?
Well, when I first did it, I thought I'll just get 500 of them because I probably won't even sell that many. And then there was a lot of interest in Pennsylvania music, and they invited me to come teach at a festival near State College called Greenwood Furnace Gathering, where they had Pennsylvania music and other people teaching other things too. It was a beautiful area and nice festival, and I was teaching some of these Pennsylvania tunes up there, and so I sold a lot there, and there was a lot of interest in it. So I sold out of all those, and I thought, well, I'll get 300 more, and I'll have those till I die. I sold all those, and then I was thinking about getting some more, and I thought, at this point, I'm not going to get any more. So Barb has, her computer skills are much better than mine, and I enlisted her help, and she put all the MP3s are on my website, which is myname.com, toddclewell.com. You can go on there and you can download one tune or all these tunes if you want to. And I also have the liner notes on there as well, in a PDF format that you can download and print off. And if you want to make a CD out of it with the liner notes, it's all there. So it's all there for free.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with all of our old-time world.
Well, that's, so anyway, that's where you can get it. That's where you can get it, because I don't have any more. I have maybe 2 or 3 of the original. Anymore, CDs are sort of a thing of the past anyway, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy that CDs are becoming a thing of the past. I was young enough that it made sense when cassette tapes became old or something. But I grew up with the CDs now, so I can't believe CDs are going out of fashion.
Some of the cars don't have a CD player in them, I guess now.
A lot of them don't now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the newer ones, yeah, and the computers as well. You know, they're
Yeah. I know my computer doesn't have one. I have to go to my old half broken computer anytime I want to listen to a CD.
But I think in the old time world, it's still there's still people making CDs, and I think that there's a market for it. I think we support each other in that way. With the CDs. I know I bought yours. You just made one here a year or two ago, which is wonderful.
Yep, with Hay Fever. Thank you.
Hay Fever. It's a great wonderful CD.
Oh, glad you're enjoying that. Awesome. Now, I have a question for you just from something you said. I'm here in West Virginia, play a lot of West Virginia music, and it's kind of well-known West Virginia music, like that's a thing. And you were talking some about Pennsylvania tunes. Could you tell me a little bit about Pennsylvania music? Are there characteristics that are specific to Pennsylvania? Who are some of the maybe contributors that people should know about from Pennsylvania?
Well, as I said, the first book that Samuel Baird wrote there was only 5 contributors to that. I think there's 107 tunes in there, 105, something like that. Mm-hmm. And Sarah Armstrong contributed 37, so she contributed about 1/3 of that book. So she was obviously a very important fiddler. The Dance to the Fiddle book that I showed you there's a couple hundred, I think, fiddle players that he collected from in there. And a lot of the names, there's nobody that you would probably recognize the name, because many of them were so local to the whatever area they were in there. Sure. I'm sure they were well known wherever they were. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the music came from southwestern Pennsylvania, which would be in the Pittsburgh area, okay. And sort of, just north of West Virginia and Ohio to the west. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of coal mining in the Allegheny Mountains there where Sarah Armstrong lived, and the railroad went through there as well. So people came there to work, and there was people from all countries, different countries. There was a lot of different influences in the music. So you'll find similarities in the tunes to what we play in the West Virginia tunes and everything, but they're just a little different. And I don't know. I mean, I can only speak from the ones that I've learned from Sarah Armstrong. There's no recordings of Sarah Armstrong, so all we have is the sheet music. And as you know, if you're trying to make something out of a piece of sheet music that nobody else has ever made anything out of, it's hard to say how they played it. Right. And the only thing you can bring to it is your own style. Mm-hmm. Mark Tamsula and Richard Withers Mark lives in Pittsburgh, and he has done, I think, 5 CDs of Pennsylvania music, all from the Dance to the Fiddle, March to the Fife book. Awesome. He's very into that. He's a very, very, very good fiddler, and he knows a lot of Pennsylvania tunes, and he's met some of the people that knew some of the fiddlers that were interviewed in that book as well. Oh, now some of those tunes in that book, they have the same names as tunes like Squirrel Hunters is in there, and I think that's probably one of the source places where people got that tune was out of that.
I love that tune. I didn't realize that was a Pennsylvania tune. That's great.
Well, it was collected. And the version that's in that book is pretty similar to what you hear. Yeah. Not that it didn't come from somewhere else, but the point is, there was such an influx of people from other countries, Ireland and England and Scotland, and so there was this mixing bag of music which turned into, and there was influences from the different states as well.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, I tell you what, talking about that makes me want to hear another tune. You got something else you want to play?
Yeah, I think I'll back up Barb on the guitar here. We're going to do one. There's a version of Patty on the Turnpike that Sarah Armstrong played, and we call it Patty on the Pennsylvania Turnpike because it's so different. It's not like the Patty on the Turnpike that you probably have heard. So this one's in the key of G, and we'll go with it.
I'm going to be your clapping audience because I know how strange it feels to play and then not hear people clapping. But I'm sure there's people all over the internet right now watching and clapping from their homes. That was great. Oh, well, really nice.
I hope so. I did get back to getting back to the process of how I learned about Sarah Armstrong. There was another piece of the story that when I decided that I was going to do this project, I thought, well, I don't really know too much about Sarah Armstrong. And there was a small, where the picture is in the book, in the introduction to the book, there's a small biographical sketch of Sarah Armstrong, a little bit about her and her family and so on. But I thought, well, maybe I'll see if I can find out anything else. So I contacted the Historical Society in this little town called Derry, which is Derry. It's out there near southeast of Pittsburgh. And I contacted them and asked if they had any information about her. And they asked for a small amount of money, and they'd look into it. So I waited, and finally somebody got back to me and said that they couldn't find much about her, but they did find out that she was buried in Cole Cemetery, which was right in that little town. But they didn't know where because they didn't have, well, they said she was either in that cemetery or another cemetery. They weren't sure because they didn't know, they couldn't find a headstone. And they said, but one of the volunteers here is related to her. And I said, oh, well, that's great, So I got the woman's phone number, and she lived in a town not far from Derry. And I contacted her, and she was related because her father and Sarah Armstrong, I believe, were cousins.
Oh, wow.
And where you're getting some? Oh, there. Now this is a picture that she sent me.
Wow.
This actually comes from her family. There's let's see, the guy holding the fiddle there was her great grandfather.
Sarah's great grandfather.
No, the woman that I met. Sarah Armstrong's maiden name was Gray. But there was evidently a number of families that were the Gray families that were musical, because Sarah Armstrong's family, the Gray family, were musical, but they were a different family. So this was actually, the relationship is that there's the guy holding a little mandolin there. There's a guitar player named Mabel, and then there's one that says Pappy. That was this lady's grandfather.
Wow.
Ruthie Hennigan, her name was, and that was her grandfather. And then the guy holding the fiddle is her great grandfather. So, from what I understand, her grandfather and Sarah Armstrong were cousins. Yeah.
Okay.
So this isn't. So there's a distant relationship, but I just thought the picture was so cool. She sent it to me, and she says she mailed it to me, and she said, "Well, I had this old picture, and I didn't know if you'd be interested in it or not, but I sent it along anyway." And I thought it was the best
interested.
thing. It was the best thing she sent me. It's so cool looking, you know.
Yeah, and they had a pretty good looking dog too.
Yeah, look at that.
Wow, what a great picture.
And a left-handed banjo player.
Yeah. Oh, did he flip his strings up? It looks like it might just be a 4-string banjo. I'm trying to see if I see a 5th string on there.
It could be a tenor banjo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What a great picture. What a great picture.
So she sent me that picture, and we were at the time and I still do. We play a lot of contra dances and barn dances, things like that. So we had a contra dance booked in Pittsburgh, and I thought, well, I'm going to leave early and go out there and stop by Derry, Pennsylvania, and see if I can find this grave out there in the cemetery, just to see if I can. And I went out to Derry, and I went up to this Cole cemetery, and I was walking around, and it was right before Memorial Day, so all the people on Memorial Day come to the cemetery and put flowers on the graves. And there was a bunch of workers there. They were cleaning up, mowing, and making it look real nice, because it was a holiday coming up. And I asked somebody if they knew anything about, where anybody was buried, and the guy's like, "No, we're just working here, but there's a guy down in the office down there, and he knows everything about everything here." So I walked down there, and this guy was in there, and he was pretty old, and I said, "I'm looking for a grave of Sarah Armstrong." He says, "Well, let me see." And he had this old filing cabinet, back on the wall. He opens it up and pulls the drawer out, and he finds I don't know if we can show it on here or not.
No, we can try.
He finds the card from back when they buried her.
Oh, wow.
Well, there's me standing on her unmarked grave. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, we don't see it yet. You might need to
have to
share the
share the
screen. Let's see this.
Okay, so yeah, this is me.
We can see it.
This is me standing on her unmarked grave
Oh, wow.
in Cole Cemetery. And then if you can pull up that other,
I'll change that. Oops. Not sure.
well,
Looks like it was a nice day to be out exploring.
Really?
yeah, okay, and then here,
Wait a minute. Gotta share it first.
this is the actual card that he pulled out of the old filing cabinet.
Wow.
And it has on there, how much it cost for her grave, and her husband, just the history of who was buried there. It was her husband and her daughter's buried there, and her brother, Mrs. S.E. Armstrong. She was married to a guy, Charles Armstrong, who worked on the railroad. And she died she was born on March 18th, 1883, and she died August the 12th of 1957 is when Sarah Armstrong died.
57. She sure saw a lot of things in her lifetime.
Yeah, she really did.
Both World Wars, the Great Depression, just imagining that. What kind of I don't know. Can you paint a picture? What the music she was playing during that time? We know our music and we know what our life is today. What was life like in Sarah Armstrong's day playing this music?
Well, they had they actually was a place where they danced. It was called Kists, Kists, Kiss Grove. And when we were out there a couple of years ago, the guy from the Historical Society showed me where it used to be. So they had a pavilion out there, and they used to have dances. And that's where these people all played at Kiss Grove. And back then, today you can get by just playing reels pretty much. And I mean, especially if you're playing for a square dance, that's all you play.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing for a contra dance, you might play some jigs, and then they ask you for something in between, a hombo or something. But in the book, she has a lot of jigs she played. There's a lot of reels in there. She played schottisches. She wrote a waltz, and she wrote an air as well, which we'll play for you too later. So they had to play a lot of different kinds of music, because I think that each piece of music had a specific dance to it. Mm-hmm. It's like Haste to the Wedding. Haste to the Wedding is a really popular tune, but it has a dance that's associated with it. And I think a lot of the tunes they played were like that. Now, I don't know for sure, but she actually played the cello as well, according to what's in the book.
Is some of it written in bass clef or in cello?
No, it's all written. Well, because the author of the book, Samuel Baird, the way he collected the music from the contributors was he would have them play the tune, and he could write music and read music. He could write it out very well, and he must have had an excellent ear, because he would have them play the piece, and then he would whistle it back to them and make sure that he had it right. He would whistle it back to them, and then he would write it down.
Yeah.
And that's how he collected everything in that book, and also the other book, which I said has like 1,000 tunes in it. Now the big book, when he collected the tunes for that, he recorded a lot of that music. He because that was back in '44. A lot of people didn't even have electricity at their houses. When he'd go to visit them, they were way out in the middle of nowhere, and some of them didn't have electricity. So, and recording devices were not portable.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But in the '60s, and it was a different story. So he actually recorded a lot of that stuff on tape and different mediums. And a friend of mine, who's a music librarian at the Indiana University of Pennsylvania, he got a grant to digitize all that stuff. So it now exists in digital form in Penn State Special Collection up in State College. Yeah. All of Samuel Baird's recordings that he did of all these. Not every single person that contributed, but the ones that he recorded are all up there. And there's a lot of ballads as well. Because he got people singing folk ballads and things like that. So there was a whole collection of that, as well as all the fiddle tunes.
What a treasure trove! Man.
Yeah, so he was quite. You could do a whole story just on him. The fellow who collected all these tunes. But I figure he must have been impressed with Sarah Armstrong, because her picture is prominently in the front of the book, and the first day he was there, he collected 4 tunes, and then he went back and a few more times and got the rest from her. So wow. He must have really liked the way she played.
That's pretty great. Well, why don't you play another one of her tunes? We'd like to hear some more.
All right, let's do. All right, yeah, we'll do one. A lot of people like this tune because of the name of it. It's a little sort of gross sounding name. It's called Maggots in the Sheep Hide, which I guess you don't really want in your sheep's hide. You don't want maggots in there, but this one's called Maggots in the Sheep Hide. Maggots in the sheep hide.
That name, wow. And I wonder if that was one of her originals from an experience that she had, or
It wasn't an original, but I don't know where she got it. I mean, it's sort of unlike any other tune that I've ever really heard.
Very unique, very unique. Now I hear that with your research there was an award involved at one point.
Oh yes.
What was that about?
Well, I think it was 2000. I got the award in 2013, and I think it was maybe a year before that. I got a correspondence. I got an email from the new president of the Dairy Historical Society out there, and he said that he was looking through some old papers, and he saw that I had inquired about Sarah Armstrong, and he was really interested in what I had done and so on, and he was just liked the whole thing, and they wanted to make some kind of a display out there in their building, to sort of document everything she did, and so and along with that, he wanted to have us come out there and play at a little festival they had, and so then he must have gone to the board, and they talked about this, and they decided to give me a little piece of paper that says, for preserving history, for Sarah Armstrong, the work that I had done to preserve, the CD and the research and so on. And I actually had gotten a couple extra copies of that Hill Country Tunes book. You could get them at a pretty decent price, from a used book place. And I had one that still had the dust jacket on it, which was like amazing, from 1944. And I donated that to the Historical Society out there.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they were going to give me the award in 2012, and then the guy called me up. He said, "We were going to give it to you at this board meeting, but we have a guy who's really old that we're going to give an award to this year, and we want to give it to him and make sure he gets it." So we'll have to wait till next year, and then we'll give it to you. So
You're like, I can wait.
That's fine, So they had us out there, and they dug up some of Sarah Armstrong's some of her relatives. Maybe you can show a picture of that too.
Well, you keep talking. I'll see if I can find it.
So they found these two boys who were related. Their last name was Gray, which was what Sarah Armstrong's maiden name was. And they, that's a good one right there.
All right, let me share it to the group.
So it's two brothers, and they both play horns, and you can see they both play the trombone there.
Wow.
And we were out there to do this concert, and that's Mark Tamsula holding the banjo there, by the way, and of course Barb and I, and then Henry Koretsky in the back, who's a guitar player, and the guy holding the bass there is the music librarian at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. He's the guy who digitized all of Samuel Bayard's recordings, and then these two boys are related somehow to Sarah Armstrong. I can't remember exactly how, but they're the only ones anybody they could find. So they're actually pretty good on their instruments, and their music teacher transcribed these tunes, a few of these tunes for them to play at this concert in keys, that would work for the trombone. It was really fun.
Now, did you learn it? Did you transpose it into those keys to play with them?
We didn't play with them when they did that.
Okay.
We did our thing, and then they got up and did their thing with just the two trombones.
That's pretty cool.
Sarah Armstrong for two trombones. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's the award that I got. Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's their building that they have for the historical society out there.
Oh, that's lovely. Very
Yeah, it
historic.
was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really nice what they did there.
Yeah. Now, there your award was for rediscovering this music. They said, how much did folks in the area of Derry know about Sarah? I mean, to us, she's like this prominent character in old time
Yeah.
music. Was she known in the town, or?
Very little, and the people that did know anything about her, actually, there was a couple of people that came up to us when we were playing there and said that they knew her, or they knew about her, and they didn't even know that she played music.
Oh wow.
So she must have stopped playing when she got older,
Yeah.
and they didn't even know she played music. But they called her Sadie. Her nickname was Sadie. So
Sadie.
Sadie Armstrong is what people called her.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly not, the first person to discover this music, and there's been many other people who've gone through this book and played tunes out of it. And I'd heard that James Bryant, who James Bryant is, was responsible for sort of making that old reel, bringing that into the mainstream. I had heard that. I don't know if it's true or not, but
Yeah.
many, the book was written in 1944, so it's been around a long time.
Mm-hmm. Now, that old reel is probably one of the most popular tunes that folks know about for Sarah Armstrong. Most places you go, people know Sarah Armstrong's tune or by the name Old Reel. With your research, what would you say is that best kept secret tune, the one that isn't widespread, but everybody should just go and learn it right now because it's so good?
Well, actually, the other one that a lot of people play, again, because of it's got such a funny name, is the Snouts and Ears of America.
That's a great name.
The Snouts and Ears of America, and I remember Ken Bloom played it in the contest at Clifftop one year. But it's it's sort of a wacky tune. So I think from me doing the recording, there's some of the tunes have sort of gotten out there, but there's a lot of them that are pretty good, really. I think there's another one we can play for you called "A Red Brick House in Georgia," which sort of reminds me of Ducks on the Pond.
Oh yeah.
And that's one that I think is a good tune.
Oh great. Well, I'll get out of your way. I'd love to hear that one if you want to play
Yeah,
it.
let's do that. Red Brick House in Georgia town. One more.
Wonderful. Great tune. adding that to my to-do list of tunes I want to learn now.
It does. Does it remind you a little bit of Ducks on the Pond, or?
It does, yeah. It has that same feel for sure. Yeah. Well, you had this pretty incredible journey, it sounds like, discovering all of this music, discovering the history behind it, Sarah Armstrong. How do you feel like your perspective of this music has changed from that first time you just pulled out the book and heard a tune or played the tune from the music just as a tune itself, taking it at face value, and now kind of knowing all this rich history behind it? How's that changed what you feel about Sarah's music, maybe?
Well, I think it sort of gave me a respect for all the older contributors to old time music. I think the way we learn music today has changed so much, and I think you and I talked about this a little bit, how you can go on YouTube and find just about anything you want to learn, and now you got a setting on YouTube that you can slow it down and you can really learn how the person's doing it. You can see the bowing, you can see their fingers, and it's a wonderful, great way to learn. It's incredible. But kind of things didn't exist, in the first part of this century, and even in the 60s or 70s. If you wanted to learn anything, you had to get up beside somebody and see what they were doing and try and figure it out on your own or get a recording. And so I think I've got a lot of respect for those people who really became good fiddle players and kept that tradition going. And you got to remember, back in those days, they were really isolated where they lived. They didn't get around to hear other. They probably heard some popular music, but nothing like today, where you're just inundated with it constantly. So the styles were more. They stayed in a certain area. There was a distinction to the styles. So I think I have a real respect for that. I have a real respect for the fact that she was a woman and she was able to make to enter that world of music and be really good at it. And I think that's a really great thing too. I mean, look
in
how many
that time,
women,
especially, like,
at
wow,
that time. I mean, look at today. Look how many women play old time music. I mean, there's tons and tons of women playing old time music, but not that long ago there wasn't that many. In the 60s and 70s, it was a male dominated kind of music, really.
Yeah. It was funny. I was speaking with somebody in a interview the last year or something, I think it was, and they were asking me, how does it feel to be a woman playing this music in this male-dominated, music? And he was an older gentleman, and I think he just didn't realize, like, it's not really that dominated anymore. Yeah. So,
probably,
but back in that time, it was very different,
And he probably was talking from his own experience,
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think there's parts of the whole Sarah Armstrong story that are a big mystery, and I'd like to know more. I actually had a woman that I met when I was teaching at the Greenwood Furnace Gathering who was into genealogy, and she started to really do some research because she was interested in it too, and she was really getting into it, and then she died suddenly. So it was terrible, but she did send me a few things. And something she said to me was really sort of interesting was when they do the census, they'd get everybody that was living in the house and so on. But she said for a family to have musical instruments back in those days meant that they were fairly prosperous, because most people couldn't afford to have. They were just making ends meet. They couldn't afford to go out and buy and have, musical instruments around to play, and they didn't have the time to do it either, so.
That's a great point. I guess that probably contributed some maybe to the rise of, like, cigar box fiddles and those homemade instruments, maybe.
Well, you always hear about the people building instruments, and using wire out of a screen door, twisting it together to make banjo strings and making the banjo head out of cat hide and things like that. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
they did it. You know, and they made their own fiddles, and they must have made a sound. You know, that was acceptable. I don't know. You can't
Maybe
hardly
that's
see.
the real reason there weren't more recordings back then. Yeah, that sound. Nobody was trying to advance the recording technology.
I just, it'd just be wonderful if there were some recordings of some of that stuff to hear, and
Yeah,
I just
really
would like to hear it. But I guess in another way, nobody can say you're playing it wrong because there's no recording
true.
to say, oh, you're not playing that right. Now, maybe I didn't get all the notes right because of my reading skills. Maybe that they're not all, but you know how it is
Nobody will ever know.
when you play a tune, you change it from the time you learn it until over time anyway. So yeah, it's a journey.
Well, has this project what inspired you to pursue any other musicians who have been in history to create more music like you did with Sarah's, or what's been your interest since the end of that project?
I never really did anything else besides that. I just for some reason felt very passionate about that and did it.
Yeah.
And I just until last year I was working. I worked. I had my own business, so I was really tied up with that, and I really didn't have the time or the desire really to do it. Mark Tamsula is a really good friend of mine, and he's shared with me a lot of his experience in learning those tunes and meeting some of the people that played them and some of the people that knew some of the people that are in that Dance to the Fiddle book. They knew the fiddlers, and there was this one guy, his name was Tink Queer. His last name was Queer. Tink Queer. And Mark had gotten a recording of him playing, I think it was Buffalo Gals or some tune like that. And he got it down really good, and he went somewhere to one of his relatives, and he played the tune for him, and they said, "Well, that's not the way he played it." He said, "Well, that's not the way he played it." And he said, "No, when he played, he stomped his foot really hard." That's what they remember.
And that was part of the tune. You had to stomp your foot, or it wasn't the right tune.
Yeah. It
Wow.
was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's
He,
great.
he tells some pretty good stories about it. But it's a rich area there for music, that area of Pennsylvania, and even in the northern. It was all over too. In the mountainous areas, I think more so than
The
like where we
mountains
live.
tend to collect the music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on the hour, but would you like to play us another tune here? We'd love to hear some more.
Yeah, we can do that. This will probably be the last one we do, I guess, huh?
Sounds sure. Unless you've got a few more you want to play, or we can go over.
We could play two. Yeah, let's do one now. This one here, a lot of people say reminds them of Whiskey Before Breakfast, I guess. Huh? was called
That's awesome.
Little Hornpipe. It was called.
Yeah,
So
I can definitely hear the similarities to Whiskey Before Breakfast in that one.
yeah,
Be
so
curious if they could even be played simultaneously, maybe.
so that's the when you talk about what how they're the same or how they're different than other tunes. I think that the notes may be a little different, the phrasing's a little different, but they got it out of that same family. And the fellow that wrote the book, one of his theories was that there were things called tune families, and he said, so there were tunes that were in a sort of a general kind of construction, and he called them tune families. And so I would say that Whiskey Before Breakfast and that one are in the same tune family.
They're kissing cousins. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great tune. Very nice. Well, you talked about a waltz earlier. Was there a waltz from Sarah Armstrong?
We weren't going to actually do the waltz, but what we are going to do, and I think we'll finish up with this one.
Okay.
I think we'll finish up with this one, but I wanted to tell a little bit of a story about it because this one is one that Sarah Armstrong composed as well. It's called the Dream Song, and the way she came onto it was as she had a dream that her uncle was sitting on a stump playing this air, she called it, and she woke up and immediately went and wrote the notes down to it.
Wow.
So it's called the Dream Song. So she had a dream, and the music came to her in a dream.
That's pretty spectacular to remember it so in detail when she woke up too.
I haven't had it happen to me yet. I guess there's still time.
Dedicated to Marvin Gaster.
Yeah, I want to dedicate this to Marvin Gaster. This is one of his favorite pieces, the Dream Song. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3.
Wow. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Really beautiful. I could listen to that all night long. Just incredible. Wow.
great.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, Todd and Barb. It was great to spend this hour talking with you, finding out more about Sarah Armstrong, and getting to know you both more. So thank you so much for being a part of Oldtime Central tonight.
Well, thank you and everybody at Oldtime Central, and I just want to say that it makes me feel so happy to see all you younger people so passionate about this music. It really is wonderful to see that. I just love it. It inspires me, to keep on doing it.
Yeah, well, never stop. It's so good, that music. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. You've been watching Old Time Central live, and we're interviewing Todd Clewell and Barb Schmid tonight, talking about Sarah Armstrong's tune and some of her history. If you enjoyed tonight, make sure and subscribe to our newsletters or follow us on Facebook. Almost all of everything that we do is free and open to everyone. But we are a nonprofit 501c3, so if you feel like making a donation to help us continue this mission of sharing and spreading old time music, then all donations are tax deductible and highly appreciated. So thank you all so much. Join us again next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.